Hollywood was lit in the 1970s. If you wanted to make money like Fred Astaire, feel higher than the Chrysler Building, or even party with the movie stars, you had to sell your soul to the devil. You had to sell your soul to Eddie Nash. Eddie Nash was Hollywood's drug lord and godfather. His friend, John Holmes, was the king of porn. Their association ended in one of the most brutal mass murders in the history of Los Angeles, known as the Wonderland Murders. What happened on the night of July 1st, 1981 at 8763 Wonderland Avenue? What secrets did John Holmes take with him to his grave? Do the spirits of the slain Wonderland gang still roam around the Wonderland house? And what famous pop duo in the late 2000s ended up moving into the house, only to discover an eerie presence? This is the true crime and paranormal aftermath of the Wonderland murders. Hotly Weird Paranormal goes deep in the Hollywood Hills.
What's up, UFOnauts? It's your UFO guy, Rob Christofferson. Have you ever been curious about the UFO phenomenon, but unsure of where to start? Have you ever wondered about just what crashed at Roswell? Have you ever wanted common sense advice about licking UFOs? The answer's don't. Then check out the Our Strange Skies podcast, where we dive into America's rich UFO history and uncover what these sightings say about ourselves. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and most podcast apps, as well as Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Don't forget to look up, because you never know what you'll find in our strange skies. In Gray we trust.
Hey guys.
Hello.
Geez, Bryce, I don't know how to say this.
I know, it's kind of a weird, serious start.
Okay, in the count of 3.
Yeah, we just have to do it.
Okay, ready? Okay, 1,
2,
3. Guys, we totally
we
missed you.
You so much.
So missed you. I was in a fetal position.
Where have you
in
been?
a cold sweat. Like, you have no idea. At first, I thought I saw Elvis, but it was my husband.
Me too. And I also thought I saw Elvis, and it was also your husband. That's how bad we missed you.
We missed you. We were just having withdrawals, severe withdrawals.
But we're back.
We are back,
yeah.
guys. Gosh, you guys were so dramatic. You guys are like, when are you guys coming back? It's like, come on. It's only been a month.
I love
but
it, because
really
my roommates are like, can you go away? They are always like, you're back from work? Like, I live here. You guys are the best. You make me feel loved and wanted.
I know. Like, thank you guys so much.
We missed you too.
We totally missed you guys. We were so busy in the month of May.
Yes.
We are just adjusting to receiving and accepting emails
Mm-hmm.
without having a panic attack.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, we were getting so many messages from you guys on Instagram and on Gmail and our Facebook and everywhere. Like, you guys were, like, awesome.
Sorry that we were so tired.
I know. We were really... You have no idea.
There was a moment where I wasn't 100% sure we were going to make it through May. And then once it was over, I was like, oh, okay. We did it. We really did it.
Now we need a break.
Yeah.
Which is why we're starting in mid-June, guys.
Yes.
We just needed time to recoup, time to, just like clear our heads, just so we can have a clear conscience.
Commune with nature.
Work out, work on our fitness. You're looking very svelte.
Thank you.
You are looking good.
I appreciate that. I really appreciate that. I'm trying to, do the whole thing. So, no cheese is the hardest, and it always will be. Next week on Fitness Podcast.
Neglect the cheese and the ranch dressing.
I know. It's so hard.
It really is hard.
And I'm from the Midwest, so, like, pizza dipped in ranch is, like, my
oh my God.
spirit meal.
Like when
That's
you
a
go to
thing,
a
right?
party,
Mm-hmm.
don't you do the cheese cube or the cheese slice, and then you put the layer of dressing, and then you put another cheese slice, and then you finish it off with
That
more dressing?
sounds amazing.
Yeah.
That is the
that's-
problem. I know I
Yeah.
have like a full-on addiction problem because like the things that I try and rationalize, I'm like, I could eat a bag of shredded cheese for lunch. Like
Yeah,
that's
not
healthy.
a problem. I mean, the Dairy Fairy and I are just going to have to make it make peace with this
Yeah.
because the Dairy Fairy and I do not
Yeah.
get along very well. FYI, I know,
ooh.
like I pop a pill like of the lactate and I'm fine. Like we're on good terms for like an hour.
Yep.
But after that, it's like okay,
No bueno.
no bueno.
Yeah, so it is actually I am doing a fitness competition in like 2 weeks. So that's why I'm like trying to be so strict cuz normally I'm not quite this strict. But thank you for saying that. I appreciate it.
You look good.
Thanks, girl.
You look so LA.
Oh my god.
You look super LA. Well, a lot has happened, guys, while we were on hiatus. Can't you believe so much has happened? First off, we had the passing of Art Bell, who was a huge figure in the paranormal, UFO, and conspiracy theory community. And he has been the voice behind Coast to Coast Radio.
Yes.
And he passed and he left so much behind. He left a huge legacy, but he is missed. And I know that Parabox Monthly did a very
Yes.
beautiful dedication of
Hi,
them.
Parabox.
I know, we love Parabox. Guys, like, definitely check them out. They're really cool. Jim Hamilton, who runs it, is amazing, and his designs were great, but he did a beautiful tribute to Art Bell on one of the shirts, and I wear it to this day, and
Yeah.
people are like, oh my God, that's Art Bell. I'm like, hell to the yes,
Yeah, it is.
he's
Hey,
the
Art Bell.
king. And of course, we had, okay, can we just talk about the royal wedding?
Yep, we almost have to.
We have to, because David Beckham was involved, and his pants.
Anytime his pants are involved,
Yeah,
I'm
like,
there
how-
for
like,
it.
Bryce, did you see the fit
Oh,
of his pants?
He saw.
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
I put it on our Instagram story. Like, we were here for David Beckham.
I
The
mean,
tea. I was there for Oprah too.
yes.
I was there for Grand Dame Oprah.
I love Meghan Markle, actually. I was a little on the fence, not that my opinion
Yeah.
matters, but I think she did a really... You know, it's hard. There's some big shoes to fill.
Yeah.
You're always going to get compared to Diana.
Right.
You're always going to get compared to Kate. Like, everybody is obsessed with the royals.
Yeah.
The thing that I really respect that she did, a lot of people I saw were like, her dress, it's because, yeah, they gave her a budget and she donated massive amounts of that money.
Yeah.
So, like, my respect for her skyrocketed.
It's shot up.
I already was like, oh, that's cool. Like, she's really
No.
sweet. She seems really nice. She seems really poised. I loved her
Yeah.
speech.
She's
at
very
I think
conservative.
it was the... I forget off the top of my head which award, but she had this beautiful speech about like empowering women and empowering
Yes.
women of color in particular.
Oh,
it
for
was,
sure.
So I already really liked her.
Yeah.
And then when I heard that, I was like, oh, she puts her literal money where her mouth is. So
She
like,
does.
A, I liked her dress. B, it was like simple because she's like, no, I'm not gonna spend
Yeah.
all this money when I can do
I'm going to
good
change
with it.
out of my dress into my real dress. Did you see
I
her
loved
dress
it.
for that to me was that would have been her dress for the wedding. That was her. The halter and everything, but she had to abide by the
course,
guidelines,
of
you know.
course.
And people were like, "Well, it looked too boxy." I'm like, "It's a retro pattern.
You're
It's,
getting married in the Church of England.
you have to abide by the
look
rules."
yeah.
And one thing, you have to be and feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Homegirl's like, we got pictures. Oh, let me tell you about pictures at a wedding. That takes up an hour.
Yeah.
To wrangle all your family members, the little kids, everything. That takes
Those
time.
little kids. Oh.
But yeah, I was there for Oprah, Serena Williams, and definitely David Beckham in his pants.
I'm always there for David
Oh,
Beckham.
we are there for David Beckham. David Beckham, if you're out there.
Hey, David Beckham, thanks for listening to our podcast.
Keep
We
those
love
pants
you.
tight. Bye. And of course, the big fish. Can we talk just a little smidge, guys, about
Yes.
the Golden State Killer case?
It's...
You came down into
Am
my
I
shop.
speechless? Yes, I think I'm
You-
speechless.
yeah, well, I was
Yeah.
speechless when you told me, "Hey, did you hear the news?" I'm like, "About what?" I've been like crazy with work, and you're like,
I know.
hello, they caught a huge suspect
I
of
know.
of the Golden State Killer case." I'm like,
It's
"What?"
insane.
Two
Like,
words: Joseph D'Angelo.
amidst like a sea of constant bad news, like every day I
Yes.
wake up and I'm like, ugh, I can't look at the news. It makes me angry.
Yeah.
I'm depressed. And then to sort of see like justice served, allegedly. Okay, right? Like I'm not trying to like say that, right, guilty and all of that. But to sort of see the fruition of so many people's work
Yeah.
come to light and to be rewarded with, like, justice was so satisfying.
Yes.
Like, in a way that, like, I think a lot of our souls needed. Just like, right.
It was like a
bad
deep,
people do get caught.
It was a release.
Yeah,
it was like such a great release until you see him.
Yes.
He looks like an ornery old bastard. Like the ornery old man that lives in the neighborhood, that tells you to get off of his lawn when you're not on his lawn.
Yes.
That has the dog with the 3 legs and the 1 eye, but still calls him Thunder for some reason.
Thunder.
Maybe this is a piece of Tammy's childhood. Yes, maybe. But a little bit. But he just looks like he looks like an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
He looks like I mean, the guy. I mean,
If
he's
it quacks
so,
like a duck.
he looks like he has a bowl of whiskey each morning. Like, he's just like, yeah, I did it. This is my retirement. Just throw me in jail and me rot. He just looks, I just want to punch him so bad. But I know, like, the update, I think last Friday a judge unsealed parts of the arrest warrant for Joseph D'Angelo.
Dude, the whole thing.
Guys, if you've been living under a rock lately, he's the 17-year-old former police officer who was accused of committing serial rape and murder across California for 40 years, thus calling him the Golden State Killer or the East Area Rapist. And I know that, like, Michelle McNamara had her book come out, I'll Be Gone in the Dark.
She's the one that I especially felt so... It's like it was her literal life work.
That was her life.
And so for her and her co-author to, like, or, you know what I mean, to have them get that payoff, especially posthumously.
Yes.
It just felt so deserved or special or whatever the actual word is. I was just like, oh wow,
I
like,
ugly cried
oh
for
yeah,
like a good 5 minutes.
Wow, she like had such a big part of this.
She
like
did,
I mean, she
and
really her
bravo.
life. Yeah.
Bravo. I've been listening to her book on Audible because there's
love.
like, of course, during May, there's no way I could read it, and I had to listen to it, and I was just like crying, and I was like, oh, if she was alive to see this, you know. And Patton was just so amazing. He's like supporting her still and promoting her book and everything. And My Favorite Murder did a really great recording of it.
It's
and
a good episode.
Oh, it's such a great episode.
If you want to cry.
Yes, if you want to cry, and every time you listen to Pat, you're like,
I know.
I'm not gonna cry. No, you're not
Oh,
crying.
please.
I'm crying.
I've been crying at Queer Eye episodes all week. Like, no, stop. You want to cry, and you're gonna do it.
Exactly. Oh my God. But it's been a lot.
Yeah.
In almost like a month and a half.
Yeah.
A month and a half.
A lot can happen.
A lot can happen during that time. It does. Well, guys, you heard it in the beginning intro. You heard it, guys. We're going to be talking about the Wonderland Murders. Now, I know that Wonderly did an amazing 7 series. I think it was a 7-part series or 6-part series of this case.
Amazing.
And I know one of our listeners, David Coe, if you're listening, what's up, David?
Hey.
He told me on Facebook, Wonderly did a series on it.
Amazing.
And Wonderly is responsible for Dirty John, Sword and Scale, and Young Charlie. Those are some really good podcasts to listen to.
If
They're
for some
really
reason
great.
you haven't, please watch. Like,
Yes.
go listen to
Go
them.
listen
They're
to them.
so well done.
They are. Man, they go like past the meat to the bone
Yes.
to the marrow.
Yes.
They're so well executed. And we're going to take things a little differently. We're going to go to some places where no other paranormal and true crime podcast has gone before.
Yes.
We have discovered there is a paranormal aftermath.
Delicious.
It's so delicious. You are never going to figure out who ended up moving into this house. It is a huge surprise. In 2009, there's a pop duo, pretty big. They moved into the house and they experienced some crazy stuff.
Oh, I bet.
Oh, yeah. We're going to hit that note.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, so guys, first off, what we're going to do is go into the history of porn. You know how we do. We take you through a little historical walkthrough of LA. In the 70s, how did porn become big? Yes. And then we'll go into the introduction of cocaine and drugs. And then we'll go into the characters in this crazy Hollywood tale. And then, Bryce, you'll take us to church. Church on the robbery, what led up to the murderous rampage after that robbery, what happened, and of course the trial. That was another doozy right there. The trial that lasted forever because John Holmes is just a POS and couldn't get a straight answer out of him.
Yeah. Oh. Just you wait, John Holmes. I have some things to say.
Here's the things. Bryce has a lot of things.
Shocker, I know.
Very shocker, I know. All right, guys, so let's get into it, because I know you're like, cut the banter with the knife and get into the meat of the story and into the bone and into the marrow.
They're like just skipping through us.
Please, like,
come back to us.
I have the attention span of a chihuahua with AD&D.
Same.
All right, guys, so let's talk dirty. Let's talk porn. Ready for this?
I am.
So how did porn start in LA? How did it start? How did it blow up? And in order to find out, we needed to go deep in Valley. Hill. Over the hill.
I'm going to do that a lot.
Oh,
Sorry.
yeah.
I apologize in advance. Yep.
Go ahead. We live in the valley, the San Pornando Valley, to be exact, or what others like to call the Silicon Valley.
Oh, boy.
Clever, I know. So since the 1970s, the hills above Hollywood have played host to a booming pornography industry. A majority of American sex films are shot there in warehouses and private homes, and nowadays, Airbnb, guys. So if you're thinking about making a trip and staying in the valley, bring a black light if you're going to stay in an Airbnb.
Yep.
So how much does the porn industry make? Well, with 15,000 films and close to $15 billion in profit, $5 billion of that profit comes from California. Whoa. The porn industry makes more money than the Major League Baseball, the NFL, and NBA combined.
Wow.
Bryce, what are we doing with our lives?
I mean, look, I'm not going to do porn,
but
I got student loans to pay. Like, I don't know.
We'll work for porn.
Oh, boy.
Little short story time. I had a friend of mine worked on a porn set.
Wow.
And he said he did makeup for it, and it was good money.
I
He
bet.
didn't even know it was a porn set in the beginning.
Yeah.
He did makeup. He's like, yeah, I just had to paint their bodies. And then I realized after looking at some of these women's like jobs, you know what I mean? Like their boob jobs, like put two and two together. Mm-hmm. But he said it was the most like professional, clean set.
Yeah.
He said he wasn't on set. They were like in a house in Studio City set up, and they paid him, I'm not kidding, to work 8 to 5 in the evening. Mm-hmm. They paid him $800 in cash.
Ooh.
Just to paint naked bodies, because, you know, HD is very unforgiving.
Yes, it is.
And they paid his boss, like, I think close to $1,200. I will work for porn.
Yeah, right.
Because I do costume. All I would have to do is hand the director catalogs for like Fredericks of Hollywood, Victoria's Secret, just like, here's a color palette, tell me what you want. They're barely going to wear it anyways.
Right,
My job is done.
It's going to end up on the floor. Yes.
I just have to cut the tags. Done. All right, so how did an out of the way desert suburb like the Valley become the porn capital of the world? Location. Because in the industry, guys, it's always about location, location. According to BusinessInsider.com, at its onset, the porn industry stretched across Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York, where the entertainment industry was purely concentrated. Paul Fishbein, co-founder of adult trade group AVN Media Network, told Associated Press in 2002 that the business migrated to the Valley because of low rents and access to the mainstream movie business. The Valley's proximity to Los Angeles helped create a pipeline of Hollywood talent, which included directors, producers, designers, crew members, and actors that needed a little side hustle. And it's so true, because like from the Strip across, like over the hill, it takes you like 30 to 40 minutes to get to the Valley.
Yes.
It's so simple. Like we hop over that hill every morning to go to work. We pass by Vivid Entertainment every freaking morning. Guys, Vivid Entertainment is literally 5 minutes from where we live. And it's one of the top 5 pornography production companies in the States. Yeah, like their offices is huge. It's right across the street off of Ventura Boulevard from In-N-Out Burger, and it's right next to my old yoga studio.
Yes, get a little yoga.
Oh, yeah. Vivid. When I would take classes there, you knew who was from those offices. All right, guys. So we start with the golden age of porn, a period from the late 60s to the early 80s when porn became a more accepted part of pop culture. Now, don't think that producing porn was legal at the time. It was an underground organization that ran like a guerrilla production, made up of car meetups in seedy grocery parking lots and gas stations. Busts were made on certain locations, and people served jail time for producing porn. But it didn't stop one production in particular from making it big. You see, this was the era of Deep Throat, the smash 1972 porno starring Linda Lovelace and Harry Reams. Ugh, I hate that name. That inspired the nickname of the FBI leaker who brought down President Richard Nixon.
Yep.
It was when porn made casual appearances in Hollywood films, such as the scene in Taxi Driver from '76, when a young Robert De Niro takes a young Sybil Shepherd to see a Swedish porn film at an adult movie house. Like, how romantic is that? Swoon. And it was a period when even the New York Times was running advertisements for porn theaters. Here in West Hollywood, we have the Pussycat Club, which is now called Studs. It's off of Santa Monica Boulevard. Do you know where it is? Okay. It's still a porn theater.
I've seen billboards for it.
Oh,
but
it's like Studs.
Yeah,
like,
it's a lot.
It's huge, and it's a big porn theater in the middle of Santa Monica Boulevard.
Bless.
It held splashy premieres complete with limousines, red carpet, clicked lights, and lines that wrapped around the block. Out front, the chain's founder, Vincent Miranda, had famous porn stars such as Lovelace, Reams, Ron Jeremy, and Tracy Lords leave their prints in the cement, thus creating the first porn walk of fame.
Bless.
It still exists today. When I lived in WeHo, I would always park around that theater to do my laundry or go to a bar around there, and I'm like, oh, what is this on the ground? It's still there, and then you could still see the Pussycat sign above it. Now, here's the biggest question, Bryce. Have you ever seen Deep Throat?
I thought you were going to say, have you ever watched porn? And I was like, wow, we're getting very personal.
We're getting deep.
No, I have never seen Deep Throat. I'm aware of it culturally.
Yeah.
Because it really is the turning point. Before that, it was like taboo, not talked about, and illegal.
Yes.
And then Deep Throat happened, and it was like, all bets are off.
Yeah.
Everything's allowed.
Well, they came out with that huge documentary 2 years ago, Inside of Deep Throat.
Yes.
And that one was huge because it really goes into like the history of it, who were involved, and how it inspired the Watergate scandal.
Yes.
But like, it's a classic coming of age film about a small town girl living in a lonely world. She took the midnight train. Fuck, that's Journey. Never mind. That's Journey. Sorry, that was Journey. Sorry, to be blunt. Okay, to be very blunt, it's about a woman who has a vagina in her throat, but she's able to take on the world one fellatio at a time.
Sure.
Goals. Right?
It?
I mean, in Hollywood, think about it.
Yeah.
Think about it. Look, several years ago in a production office, two ideas were thrown on a table. Sharks and tornadoes. Thus, Sharknado.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
And they're on like their seventh
one. No idea is a shitty idea in Hollywood, guys.
That's true.
Sharknado is a really good example of that.
Love it. I live.
So we see the emergence of porn, and there's cocaine to follow. Now, cocaine has been around, but in the 1970s, it emerged as the fashionable new drug for entertainers, actors, models, and business people, industry people, people who are big. So cocaine seemed to be the perfect companion for a trip into the fast lane. It provided energy and helped people stay up. People were doing lines of it in the bathrooms of clubs, on movie sets, everywhere. In the 1970s, Colombian drug traffickers began setting up an elaborate network for smuggling cocaine into the U.S. Now, traditionally, cocaine was the rich man's drug due to the large expense of a cocaine habit. We'll learn this later. By the late 1980s, cocaine was no longer thought of as the drug of choice for the wealthy, but then it had the reputation of America's most dangerous and addictive drug linked with poverty, crime, and death.
Wow.
You could see a good example of the cocaine trade in the movie Blow with Johnny Depp and Penelope. It's really good. It's very thorough. You see the history of the trade from the 60s on out to the 90s and how it evolved in LA. If you see the show Snowfall on FX.
I'm not familiar with that one.
Oh, see it.
Okay.
You see how it evolves from like the low-income neighborhoods and how it spread like wildfire all over the city in the 80s.
Ugh.
Now let's get to know our characters in this crazy yet unimaginable Hollywood tale. It's the point of our episode where we get to know these victims as people and not victims. We start with John Holmes, a.k.a. Johnny Wad. So
that is
I know,
name.
leaves a bad taste in my mouth. So
Yucky.
I know. Holmes was born John Curtis Est on August 8th, 1944 in a small rural town of Asheville, Ohio. Bryce,
that's very close to me.
You Ohioans are everywhere.
Look, here's the thing. Let me tell you a little something about Ohio.
Excuse me, do you speak Ohio?
Yeah. We have more presidents than anyone else, and we have more astronauts than all other states combined. And the reason for that is because getting out of Ohio is every Ohioan's main goal. And some of us have to get to space. We have to get out that much. So it doesn't surprise me that that's where he's from. Bless.
Yeah,
I know exactly. Like, as soon as I saw that he was born there, I was like, oh, okay.
You're like, great, that place.
Great, yep.
So he was the youngest of 4 children, born to 26-year-old Mary June Barton Holmes, but the name of his father is unknown. Father was barely in his life, so the mom remarries another man. He's no bueno. They divorced 3 times, and the reason why they divorced so many times is because he is an alcoholic. He beats on her and the children. Holmes ends up leaving the house at the age of 15 to enlist in the U.S. Army with his mother's written permission. He was like, I'm over this. I'm piecing out. So he spent most of the 3 years of his military service in West Germany. Upon his honorable discharge in 1963, he moves to L.A., where he worked a variety of jobs, including selling door-to-door goods and tending to the vats of a coffee nips factory. Now, during his stint as an ambulance driver, Holmes met a nurse named Sharon Gabinini in December of 1964. They married in 1965 after Holmes turned 21. So they were very, very young when they got married.
I know. Well, it was the 60s. It was a different time.
I know. Love, free love.
And that, like, post-war kind of, like, get a family and all of that. Like,
pop out some kids, work. So April 1965, Holmes finds work as a forklift driver in a meatpacking warehouse. However, repeated exposure to freezing air in the large walk-in freezer after being outside and inhaling the hot desert air caused him severe health problems in his lungs. And then Sharon also faces health problems of her own. During the first 17 months of her marriage to Holmes, she miscarried 3 times, so she couldn't have any children.
That makes me so sad.
It does, because she really wanted to be a mother.
Aww.
And she had that maternal instinct. Like, she was very nurturing, very motherly. This is why she's a nurse. And we see this play into, come into effect with Holmes in his darker days.
Right.
And then soon when he gets involved with his young teenage mistress. We'll get to her soon.
Bless.
Trust me. So how did John Holmes get into porn? That is the biggest question. Well, it turns out this is just legend, but legend has it that he goes into a bathroom. He's relieving himself at a urinal. This guy who's, relieving himself too, looks over and tells him, you have a big talent.
Oh, boy.
So he tells him, you should go into porn. Here's my card. I hope he washed his hands before handing him that card. Yeah. And Holmes is like, okay. So one day, Sharon comes home early from work and discovers Holmes measuring his penis. He's like, babe, look, it's 13 inches erected. Look.
Oh, boy.
And Sharon's like, okay, put that away. Actually, leave that out. No, put that away.
No. Oh.
And John Holmes tells her, hey, I have this new job venture. Hear me out. And she's thinking like he's joking, right? He's joking, like he's not really going to go through with this. So he does. He goes through with it. He contacts the man. It turns out the man is a director, gets him involved in loop films, which are celluloid films you played on projectors. They're 30 to 45-minute films of 2 people having sex, and they're played at parties, like frat parties and bachelor parties. Yeah. So John finally comes clean with Sharon and tells her, I've been doing this. It's been very lucrative. And in his words, I am a carpenter. These are my tools.
Ugh.
I need to work with my tools.
Right.
And what really surprises me is that she gets a bit disappointed, but she really didn't put up much of a strong objection with him because he is such a talker and he's a salesman. He's like pitching this to her. Like, this is a good idea. Like, the money's good. Yeah. But here's the things. I'm going to be sleeping with these women, but they mean nothing to me.
Yeah, he's like, it's not cheating.
Yeah.
It's for my work.
And she's just my art.
I'm not okay with this. No.
No, you need a good rebuttal for this. So they end up like continuing this awkward relationship. Like, his new career pretty much kills their marriage. Right. They slowly start to drift apart. They end up getting divorced in 1983. They were still sharing a bed. They were sleeping together, but not sleeping together. Sure. One day in 1970, Holmes met Hawaiian producer Bob Chin. He showed Chin his portfolio, his stills, and then stripped down and showed him, his wad. So
yeah. Well, I mean, and that was the thing. In the documentary.
Yeah.
Chin is like, he was gangly. He was not that good looking. And I was like, no. And then he like whips it out. And
he's
he
like,
changed his mind on the spot. He's
whoa.
like, great, you're hired. Okay, come on, let's go.
When can you start?
Yeah.
It inspired him to write a screenplay. So that evening, he writes a 3-page screenplay. A partnership is born. This would lead in the mid-70s to Holmes' most successful role as Johnny Wad. So according to Al Goldstein in Screw Magazine, it was a goofy, crudely made series, but it really was a successful series, is wildly successful. In a way, Holmes was every man's gigolo. A polyester smoothie with a sparse mustache, a flying collar, and lots of buttons undone. He was the stereotypical greasy 70s dude. Like, if you see pictures of him, guys, online, he has, like, he's just gangly, skinny. He's wearing the tight polyester pants, hairy chest, medallions. He has a fro and like a porn stash. He was the guy that created the porn stash, in other words.
Ugh.
He looks like a penis with a mustache and a fro.
Yeah.
Like that. I mean, this is the best thing I could think of.
Yeah.
So Holmes goes on to make more than 2,000 porno films. Has slept, this is legend, slept with 14,000 women.
I mean, that's not true.
That's not true.
He does this weird thing where he would make up these, like, oh yeah, this is a thing, like, this is a fact.
Yeah.
Like, that's just not.
No, that's not
true.
That's not true. Sorry, dude.
But,
no.
yeah, he's.
Like, what
maybe
drugs
it is
do you
true. Like, supposedly that's not the accurate number, but that's because he just would be like, oh yeah, I slept with 14,000 women. Like, okay.
We're sitting here like a beautiful mind, like, wait, 2,000 movies,
right?
divide
Literally,
that
yeah.
by how many people are in a porn set. Okay.
Yeah, it's just
Subtract
hilarious.
this, divide
Bless him.
So he does a ton of movies, and then there's a famous documentary. I think it's the one that you're talking about. Is it called Exhausted? Is that the documentary?
That's
Or
not
is
the
it
one I watched.
The Life and Times of Johnny Wad, right?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I watched the one that was like it actually is about the Wonderland Murders, but they go into his life. I haven't seen the Exhausted, but it's like...
Yeah, because after, 2,000 films and 14,000 women, you're exhausted.
Right.
By the 80s,
right?
like,
Yeah.
wow. So by 1974, Sharon becomes the resident manager of a 10-unit apartment court in Glendale. It was owned by a pediatrician she worked for, so she and Holmes lived there rent-free. Must be nice.
That's the dream.
Sometimes he worked around the apartment as a handyman and gardener. And about this time, Sharon says Holmes began working as a courier for the mob. So he's already, transporting drugs. He would come home from, a movie premiere, take off his boots, peel down his socks, and take out wads of large bills. He would have a total of $50,000 in his boots.
Oh, no.
From doing these courier jobs.
Oh, boy.
Dawn Schiller arrives into Holmes's life in 76. So she was a teenager and her parents had just divorced. She'd driven out from Miami with her father and younger sister. So according to Mistress Manifesto, Holmes took up with Dawn Schiller, then 15 years old in 76, about 10 years after marrying Sharon. Later on, Dawn testifies that he began a slow seduction after they met that led to sex in a van parked at the beach. Romantic and loving, but still, she was a teenager to his 30-something years. Disgusting.
Gross.
Her testimony in her own book is at odds with what is said in his documentary, The Life and Times of John Holmes. In her book, she claims that the sex caused her pain and a bladder infection, and she barely couldn't walk. I mean, come on. You're 15. He's 30. He has a 13-inch dick. I mean, if I was in her position, 15 years old, come on.
Well, I mean, I think she was like groomed. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I think when
he,
I was
sought
15.
her out. He was predatory.
He was very predatory. But me, I was not thinking about losing my virginity in a van by a beach to a man like twice my age,
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly some issues there. But...
Yeah, there are a lot of daddy issues.
Well, I think like he just played her and then controlled her.
Oh, yeah.
Like from the moment he met her, one of the things she said was like, he saw me the first time and was like, ugh, I'm too young, and like turned and like walked away from her and like made her mad, and she wanted to like prove that she wasn't too young, that like kind of rebellious, like, and I just think that is like classic grooming of just like, I'm gonna reverse psychology this situation, and like then she's now like trying to win him over, which is what he wants. It's just disgusting.
It is. It's really disturbing.
Yeah,
and it's just it gets worse.
And I was gonna say, and it's the first in a journey of 1,000 steps. Like,
oh yeah,
it's just he's such an asshole.
He
and
is.
This poor woman, like Poor sweet baby.
But she ends up winning in the end. We'll find that out later. So after Holmes meets Dawn, he then meets cocaine on a film set in Vegas. Perfect setting. So before the clean-cut porn star was punctual, lucid, and hardworking, even if he wasn't in a certain scene of a film, he would be behind the set, like behind the scenes with the boom mic or co-directing with Chin. Holmes started to become very erratic around 78. On sets, he was harder and harder to deal with. He locked himself in bathrooms and in closets. Soon he started stealing on film sets. He began to steal his coworkers' purses, wallets, and belongings. Soon he was stealing movie equipment. It got to the point where people were slowly moving away from him and not hiring him for films. So in the late 1970s, he meets Hollywood's godfather, for better or for ill, Eddie Nash. It's claimed that Holmes met Nash through a friend of his. I think it was Scott, who was the ex of Liberace.
Yes.
Liberace's ex. He's also really good friends with Nash.
Yes, this whole story is just littered with like weird
connections,
C-list connections.
Yeah,
like, what?
like 6 degrees of separation right here.
Yeah.
It's like Liberace's homeboy is like in here.
I love it.
He meets Eddie Nash at a huge party that Nash is throwing at his house. So Eddie Nash, a.k.a. Adel Garib Nashwala, was a Palestinian national. He started out selling hot dogs out of a hot dog stand off of Sunset Boulevard in the early 50s. And by the late 60s, early 70s, he's a self-made businessman who owns a chain of nightclubs, strip bars, and gay clubs off of the Strip and Hollywood Boulevard. So this guy truly had a Jekyll and Hyde complex. He was a great guy and host. If you played your cards right with him, you were nice to him, cross him, then he would make sure you were never seen again. There was even a rumor he had bodies of his victims buried across the desert.
Ooh.
He's up there with Mickey Cohen, Suge Knight, and Bugsy Siegel. You just didn't want to mess with this man. And of course, his bodyguard, Gregory DeWitt Dials, was a karate expert, which is kind of funny, and convicted felon who weighed a blubbery 300 pounds. He was a mountain of a man, but according to one eyewitness, Dials once chased a man out of a Kit Kat club and emptied his .38 revolver into the man's car. Nash is pretty much in awe of Holmes and treats him like a star celebrity. Here you have a man behind, like, you know, the sex, drugs, and rock and roll party scene in Hollywood, and then in enters John Holmes with the cachet of being like the king of porn, Johnny Wad. Nash begins to call him brother just after 2 to 3 years of friendship. So earlier in 81, here's where it takes a severe turn. Nash is the man with the free base crack.
Yes.
It's hot on the market, and this drug even brings Nash to his hands and knees. Crack is a free-base form of cocaine that can be smoked. Crack offers a short but intense high to smokers. It makes you feel higher than any other skyscraper in the country, and we'll soon learn it will make you do the unthinkable. So Eddie provides Holmes with not only cocaine, but also with the crack, and soon Holmes becomes a crack addict, brings Dawn in, and turns her into an addict. As a result, Sharon kicks John and Dawn out onto the streets after learning of their intense crack addiction. They're also stealing from Sharon. He's stealing from his friends. There's a story of this couple, like this couple who were friends with him, and after like Sharon kicked him out, they offered to put him up in their house, him and Dawn. They would leave them alone in the house, come back. The house was emptied. He stole from them. And then it got to the point where he was stealing luggage from the conveyor belts at LAX.
Wow.
Like, it was that, like, he was that desperate for money. He needed crack. John then couldn't perform. He couldn't get his wad up, so he was hired for a film, and he went missing on set. These people that hired him were like, they were warned. They're like, are you sure? No, we need him because he has the name. See, the name was saving him.
Yeah, and I think in this film you're talking about, that company was also going under.
Oh, yeah.
And so they're like, well, we kind of like can help him out because his career is like sagging, pun intended, and he can like help us out. So we're willing to kind of like deal with it because like you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Yes. But he's like incapable essentially.
Don't be ridiculous, Bryce.
Boo! Love it. Live.
So he ends up missing on this production set, and they look for him. It takes them an hour. A female co-star of Holmes finds him curled up in a fetal position in a closet, muttering to himself, drenched in cold sweat. Yeah, so that was the end of it. They were like, we can't go through it. Yeah, so that was his downfall. So then enters the Wonderland gang and the house guys.
Yes.
So real quickly, according to Mike Sager of The Devil and John Holmes, Joy Audrey Miller, 46, held the lease. She was thin, blonde, foul-mouthed, a heroin addict with 7 arrests. And a year prior, she had been busted for dealing drugs out of the Wonderland house. But 6 months later, she had a double mastectomy. So, yeah, like she was like going through all this mess.
Yeah.
Her lover was Billy Deverall. Deverall was 42, was a heroin addict, so they were a match made in heaven.
Bless.
He had a record of 13 arrests. He looked like a guy in a dive bar in El Paso, according to a neighbor. Sharing the house with Miller and Deverall was Ron Linus, 37. Blonde and bearded, Linus had he served federal time for drug smuggling. A California cop called him one of the coldest people he ever met. He was crazy.
Yeah.
So the house at 8763 Wonderland rented for, of course, you're going to freak out, $750 a month.
Oh, my gosh.
Bryce, what does $750 a month get you here nowadays?
I pay that. I think I pay with utilities. I end up paying a little more than that, and I have a room in a house with 4 other people. So
there you go. But in Laurel Canyon, I think that will allow you to sleep in your car on a small plot of land.
Yeah. Like, come on.
So to paint a picture of the house, there was a garage on the first floor. The second and third floors had balconies facing the street. A stairway leading from the garage to the front door was caged in iron. There was a telephone at the entrance, an electronic deadbolt on the gate, even 2 pit bulls on leashes that barked at anything that moved.
Of course.
Though elaborately secured, the house was paint cracked and rust stained, an eyesore to the trendy neighborhood. You see, Laurel Canyon had been a prestige address, just minutes away from Hollywood Boulevard, from Tinseltown. Tom Mix and Harry Houdini once owned homes in that area. So the house at 8763 had passed from a ruckus group of women. Neighbors were called naked women being tossed from the first floor balcony to the members of the Wonderland gang. Things at the house were always hopping, and someone was always showing up with a scam. Miller, Deverall, and Linus needed drugs every single day. You see, they were functioning addicts. They were always looking for an opportunity. Jewelry stores, convenience stores, private homes. They would try and do anything as long as it meant money or drugs. So they were thugs stealing from other thugs.
Ugh.
They would dress up as undercover cops and break into these homes and steal money and drugs from these other, little gangs.
Oh, no.
So they developed a huge reputation. You still didn't fuck with them.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of traffic all day, all night, says a neighbor. Everything from Volkswagens to Rolls Royces. They threw brown bags of dope off the balcony. There was shouting, laughing, rock and roll 24 hours a day. So who makes it into the house one day is John Holmes.
Oh, John.
So John ends up meeting this pretty little thing at a gas station in Hollywood. They talk, they flirt, they do a line of coke. He's like, oh my God, this coke is great. She's like, yeah, it's one of the best coke in town.
Oh my God.
I know. Like, this is where I get my cocaine. Like, it's vegan.
It's organic.
Back then when...
Cut with kombucha.
Back then when cocaine was vegan.
Bless.
So she tells him, I know a place. And he's like, well, I know a guy. And she says to him, well, follow me to this place and you can meet these people. It's a really cool place. There's always a party going on. And he's like, okay. So he follows the girl to the Wonderland house. And there's, of course, a party going along.
Sure.
The girl introduces him to the Wonderland gang. The gang knew who he was. They loved the fact that, Johnny Watt is in their house. However, even though they're a group of thugs, they can see the shade and smell the bullshit that John Holmes carried in with him. So since then, John was a regular at the house and its parties at the Wonderland house. John was almost a leech at the drugs that were being served at both locations.
Right.
Eddie Nash and the Wonderland house. He was going back and forth between these two houses. What led up to the plan of the robbery over the summer was the fact that the Wonderland gang needed a fix. And you have information on that of what led to the robbery,
And I think too with him, the thing that's so crazy about John Holmes is that he really starts to get into trouble. And I think that's sort of the first domino as we look at the events at the end of June and the 30th of June and the 1st and 2nd of July, is that he gets in so much debt to both Eddie Nash and the Wonderland gang. I think more so to the Wonderland gang. And it starts with him then, like, prostituting himself out and his girlfriend out. And they're both, like, it's just, like, this very cliche now. You know, we've seen this movie. Like, you're now fully addicted. Like, I've seen Requiem for a Dream. It just gets darker and darker.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where...
spiral.
Yeah, and he's in so much, like, sort of debt and trouble with the Wonderland gang, and they're literally keeping him at the house almost like a pet. Just like, hey, you stay here because you owe us a lot of money. So he's like selling for them. He's prostituting himself. They would like have him at parties, and he would just like, they would tell him like, whip your dick out.
Oh yeah.
It was like literally a monkey on a chain. Yeah. Essentially.
Well, they called him, I think there was a nickname for him. They called him Monkey Dick.
Oh, good grief.
Isn't that horrible? That was Ron giving, like, how clever, Ron. Oh, wow.
Really digging deep there.
This is what drugs do, guys.
It takes away everything. So, that's sort of the first, like, frame of the whole situation. So, as he's doing worse and worse things to try and get ahead of his debt, essentially he can't. No. It doesn't matter. He's using too much and owes them too much. So he essentially has this idea, like you were saying, because he's going between the two homes on homes. He tells the Wonderland gang, look, I can get you a big score if we go to Eddie Nash's house. There's a lot of cocaine there. There's a lot of jewelry. There's a lot of liquid cash. We can go there. I can get us in because, like, Eddie knows me. Like, me and Eddie are close. So he essentially puts that idea in their head, and then they sort of take the reins and, like, great, this is now happening. So I think he was kind of trying, this is my complete conjecture, but he was trying, I think, to get the heat off of himself. Like, no, I can get it for you. I can get it. Yeah. And they're like, great, you will. Like,
yeah, you're gonna do it.
It's happening
because it had something to do with Linus's antique guns,
right?
That he.
So what happened with the guns is that they actually did sell them, or barter, maybe is a better word.
It was a barter, yeah.
To Eddie Nash in exchange for some cocaine. So. There's this sort of like feud between them because they are these like beautiful antique handguns.
They're worth a lot of
money. They like kind of felt shortchanged a little. Yeah. Again, the mind of a drug addict is probably not the most sound place. So whether they were shortchanged or not, they had some beef.
They did.
So this idea sort of checks a lot of boxes for them. Like, great, we can get back at the person that we don't like. We can score big. So John says that he can go, and he is in charge of like leaving this one door unlocked, essentially the sliding door. And again, like you were saying about the Wonderland house, the same is true of Eddie Nash's home. He has his bodyguard there. He's always surrounded by like security. He has to be careful. He is a very dangerous and wealthy man in Hollywood. So he has his back covered essentially. So John goes there, and he ends up going there 3 times throughout the day. Yeah. Because the first time he's, like, unable to leave the door open, or, like, forgets, honestly. The second time he does leave it open, but he gets back to the Wonderland house, and they're all asleep. They're, like, too high to function. So then he gets paranoid that, like, in the couple hours that they're like sleeping their high off, that someone would have closed the door. So he goes back to make sure that it's unlatched, and then all of them go to the Eddie Nash house and tie them up, and they're essentially like bumbling buddy cops. Like, they're so bad.
Yeah. Because these are not the little thugs they would steal from. Right. Like, they're well known for. This is like Eddie Nash.
And so his bodyguard ends up getting like grazed by a bullet because they like bump into each other, and one of the antique guns goes off. Oh god. Which, like, don't leave those things loaded. Like, what are you doing? Okay, like,
dude, that's what the trigger's for. Oh really? I thought it was for effect, dude.
Yeah, just so stupid. So they end up John knows where the safe is that all of the cocaine, all of the like money and jewelry is, and they essentially beat Eddie Nash and his bodyguard until they open it.
Yeah.
So that is the first incident that happened on June 30th.
Yes.
So 2 days later, Eddie Nash is like such a proud person, and they made him like beg for his life.
Oh, yeah.
And I think more than anything, he is fueled by like the revenge of that humiliation. Like, obviously he lost, I forget the number off the top of my head, and I'm never going to be able to find it.
It was like close to 1.2 million.
Yes. That's just the cocaine, the amount of cocaine they sold.
Yeah.
Plus the money, plus all the jewelry, plus these guns. Like, they scored.
They scored big time. They're like, oh my God, we're rich. And it's like, you just stole from a very violent man.
And he is livid because they humiliated him, and he's very about his image. He's very proud.
Oh yeah.
And so he is furious. And the other, not that there's a good way to pull a robbery, but the second mistake they make, besides pulling the robbery in the first place, is that they sort of shortchange John. And so he thinks that he's gonna really like solve his problems with this score, and they sort of divide it and keep it amongst the 5 of them.
Oh yeah.
Or I'm sorry, is it 6 or 5?
There was 5. Yeah, because there's another person in the gang.
The spouse,
it's the spouses, but there's another man too. He was like kind of like the driver.
Right.
And third in command, it was Tracy McCourt.
Right. So they kind of keep all of that, and he gets like essentially like a gram.
Yeah.
And is pissed.
Yeah, he's like, you're joking, guys.
I am the one that came up with this idea. And of course, like a drug addict is always going to be like, I want more.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, you owe us so much. Like, your cut is ours. So he's pissed too, and kind of starts, I think, the seed of him like getting ready to betray them. But what happens before he can do that is that he is spotted allegedly walking around Hollywood, and he's wearing Eddie Nash's rings, which, like, how dumb can you be?
In Hollywood, and the man, he owns half of Hollywood.
You're walking through his
territory.
Literally.
Yeah.
With his stolen jewelry. And, like, any ring, like, it's of course instantly recognizable.
Right.
Again, the mind of a drug addict is not the most sound playground. I get that. But you're wearing the rings that you stole. Like, how dumb. So, Eddie Nash hears about this, of course.
Yeah.
And has him brought in. And they, according to Liberace's ex-boyfriend, who happened to be at the Eddie Nash house also buying drugs. Guys, stop doing drugs.
Yeah.
Bless. They beat John nearly to death to get him to confess, and also sort of to like let out their anger. And he sells the Wonderland gang right up the creek. He has no affiliation to them, and I think also because he has this now personal grudge, he's tired of being treated like their literal house pet.
Yeah.
He is mad that he didn't get the cut he thought he deserved.
Right.
All of these things culminate, and he tells them, after being beaten nearly to death, who did it. So this is now July 1st. Eddie Nash allegedly, he said, tells his bodyguard, I want my stuff back. And then, again, allegedly washes his hands. However you need to do that.
Yeah. So
the bodyguard, and he sends John Holmes, because he's like, you are now, again, it's just passing back and forth.
Yeah.
This like,
you have to make this right.
You have to make this right. Exactly.
You have to make this right. And this is like, brother, this is what you have to learn.
Exactly. And he is like, your ass is grass. Like, it's time. So Holmes goes, and he's the way they're able to get into the house, because he buzzes in and like, oh, it's John.
Yeah.
So he gets past all that security for them, and then it starts the rampage. And so, an unknown number of men, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, nudge.
Yeah, there's like supposedly 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah. They enter the house, and essentially every person that they encounter once they are inside, bludgeoned to death or attempted. So they find, I have the notes here. Why am I not using them?
Yeah. Way to go.
I'm really doing it. Just because the order of the attacks are so brutal. So they go up the stairs. They have what is later found out to be metal pipes. And the first person they find is Richardson.
Barbara, yeah.
Yes, and she's in the living room. She had been watching TV and fell asleep on the couch.
God,
so she's the first one to get attacked.
And this is David Lynn's girlfriend,
Yes,
who was a part of the gang, but not staying in the house. He was out of town, and he was like, "Stay here with the gang, do a bunch of drugs. I'll be back, babe." And she's like, "Okay."
So again, it's like this indiscriminate kind of, you're in the path of destruction, and you just happen to be at the wrong place at the wrong time.
She rivals Steve Parrott. Or I think it's Steve Parrott or Parent from the Sharon Tate murders. Remember that?
Those are coming in. Yes.
Yeah, that poor young kid who was like visiting the kid in the pool house, and he's coming out, and he's like, "Hey guys, are you?" Boom, like shot in the head.
Yeah. So, she's the first to be attacked and killed. And then next is Miller, and she's found with Deverell. Is that how you would say it?
Deverell.
Yeah. Great. Look at me saying names. And they both are found in the bedroom, and the one hammer. So they think that it was possibly hammers and pipes because there's a hammer that was found in the bed with her. So they're the second two. And then Lanyus was found beaten to death in his bed, and then his wife, Susan, bless her, she was found, or she was then on the floor, and she had also been attacked.
Yeah.
And then she ends up being the only survivor.
Yeah.
So everyone else is literally beaten to death, and the way that they think that it probably was mostly pipes is that they were beaten so aggressively that the threads on the metal pipes left, like the thread marks were in all of the wounds.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, they're not just like bruised, they're open, gashed, bloody wounds. And one of the crime scene investigators said it was even bloodier than the
Manson
family murders. And that he had to leave and throw up because he'd never seen any. He's like, I've never seen a crime scene like that.
Yeah.
It
was really bad. I know the detective is Tom Lang.
Yes. Hello, Tom Lang.
Hi, Tom Lang, who, if you're a true crime nerd, he is the guy that ends up getting hired later on in the 90s for the O.J. Nicole Brown Simpson case.
Yes.
And we see why in this case.
Yes.
He does a video crime scene tape. He records the crime scene. He's the first response. And you can find this video on YouTube.
You can find it on YouTube. I caution, or at least know what you're getting into if you're going to watch it. Because I was watching it while I was eating lunch, and it was a mistake. Yeah, I really did a bad thing this week. Yeah. Girl, I had my Mendo salad. I was hungry.
You're like Mendocino, but
I'll be fine.
It's just a little blood. It's just a little.
No, I really was like, I'll be fine.
It was like
old
a scene.
70s footage.
No,
I was not
it was
fine.
like a scene out of Dexter. It was bad. It's very graphic because you see it's the first response guys. Like you see corpses, you see a lot of blood, and it's all over the wall.
Yes.
It's like a tornado ate these people and spit them out.
And so the attacks occur at 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
And nobody calls because, as you were saying, there's all these parties, there's always noise, there's always chaos. And these not to profile, but these rich white neighbors are just so fed up. They're like, no, we're not going to call the police.
Yeah, we're over it.
Yeah,
we're piecing out of this. This is just one of their parties.
It's one of their parties.
It's one of their raisers. And one neighbor even described, I thought it was a primal scream therapy
scream
session
therapy
at 3 a.m.
I mean,
bitch, are you serious?
They were living next to crazy people.
Yeah,
so
they
it's like,
were. I mean, this was the 70s, and this is the nature of LA people, like primal scream therapy.
Ugh.
I do that every fucking morning when I'm in my car commuting to work. I do my own session of like, the people who drive here are just unique. That's all I can say.
I do it into a pillow like an adult. Like, it's fine. Ugh. Whatever.
Goals.
So it's like 12 hours before the police are called, and it's because the next door neighbors hire movers.
Yeah.
And one of the movers hear the moans of Susan.
Yeah.
And he goes to investigate, bless him, and walks
into this madhouse.
Yeah, and like
follows the moans. He's like,
he
someone's
essentially
here.
saves her life.
He does.
Thank goodness, because again, no one called, which is just mind blowing to me. But
no one called, period. And there was even documentation of people who showed up.
Yep.
The next, like a few hours later, people were showing up at 8 a.m. in the morning, entering the house. There were people walking in and out of the house looking for a hit, looking for a cell, and they were jumping across the puddles of blood. And instead of calling the cops, they steal money and drugs, whatever they could find.
That is so, what a like weirdly fitting and yet sad ending.
It's such a sad ending. Like, that's what they recorded. Like, people were going in and out of there. That's the most fucked up part that I read
really
about the whole thing. Like, people were walking in and out that whole day, and it took 12 hours. The killing started like at 3 a.m. and they weren't found until 4 o'clock the next afternoon.
And it's so sad because she had such severe, she had to have part of her skull removed.
Yeah.
One of her fingers had to be removed because they couldn't save it.
Yeah.
She has amnesia. She can't remember any of the attacks.
It's really bad.
Her life is essentially ruined. I mean, she did survive.
Yeah.
So, yes.
But she had like permanent damage.
And it's just so heartbreaking.
Yeah, she had permanent damage. What saved her is the fact that when they had beaten her several times, she fell off the bed. But what people were saying, the reason why they kind of neglected to go towards her, they were fixed on Ron Linus.
Right.
They were fixed on Ron, and if you see the movie Wonderland, like, this is just based on, hearsay.
Right.
They think that Greg hands the pipe to John Holmes.
Right. And this is the whole thing.
That leaves the big Easter egg in the whole crime scene is the handprint.
Well, and so that's the thing, is that allegedly he was the one that mainly enjoyed tormenting Holmes and like forcing him to expose himself.
Yes.
And like really kept him on like the monkey pedestal. Ooh, as I hit the microphone. And so that is the theory. They find a palm print, a handprint, next to the headboard of John Holmes. So like he was at the very least an accomplice or a witness to the crimes.
Yeah. Regardless,
he's there.
It's there.
Yeah.
It's there, and they felt that he was the one that like was led to finish him off.
Mm-hmm.
I know that it was between him and Joy Miller. They got the worst of the beatings.
Yes.
Because there was a point where they were saying, like Joy had the worst like trauma because they beat her head so bad, like her skull was at her brow line. It was really bad. Even in the video, like you can hear Tom Lang going through the whole sequence. Like he does a very, very lucrative like recording. He's very thorough. He's like, and then he goes upstairs and he's like, oh, and then we see victim number 2 and 3. And
he's so thorough.
I was like, oh,
bless
God.
him.
I have to put it on mute. I'm like, I don't want to hear
I
it.
know.
I don't want to hear it. But you could see, like, you can't even tell if Joy's a female or male. Like, you can't even tell anyone's like facial. Like, they're so beaten
They're
beyond
just
recognition.
corpses, like literally.
It's such a haunting scene because, like, you go upstairs, you see Deverell, he's sitting down. They think he probably was trying to fight him off. And he's sitting down on the floor next to the bed by the television. The television's on and it's staticky. And then you see Joy, like, face up, and she's just covered in debris and blood.
Gross.
Yeah, it was really, really bad. And it turns out, like, I mean... that they had to close the crime scene off for several days because they had to bring in like blood spattering experts because
it's everywhere.
It was just, oh my God, it was like someone went crazy with like blood.
So the initial theory did, because of the handprint, John Holmes is the main suspect.
Right.
And so he sort of then he of course is arrested, and it's this media circus. He's famous enough that, like, it's sort of, you know, becomes, as we've talked about so many times, the circus sort of gets bigger than the case. And it's this very publicized, long, drawn-out trial. And it's sort of this weirdly historical trial because it's the first trial in the American judicial system that allowed video evidence of the crime scene to be admissible in court. Because before that, the technology is new, so fine. But it's the first time, and the normal defense against it is that it sort of sways or, you know, affects the reasoning ability of the jury. It's very jarring to see these images and not associate it with the person who's on the defense team. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I get it, but it's the first one, and it becomes this now historical case because of that. But he is actually found... he's super, what's the word? Unresponsive.
He's very unresponsive,
and won't testify and won't answer their questions.
Because the first person to come forward, well, the first person that they grab is Dave Lind.
Yes.
Because Dave Lind knew the gang. He was away, and when he comes back, he discovers, like, this chaos. So they call him in for questioning, and he just tells them everything, which leads to them going to John Holmes. John Holmes is, like, not giving him a straight answer. Tom Lang even
won't answer. Yeah, it's so bizarre.
Tom Lang even describes it. He's like, he was hoping that Holmes would come clean in the very end and confess, especially with the specter of death staring him in the face later in the future.
Right.
But Tom Lang, like, in reports was saying, like, in my gut, I knew he had something to do with it. He was there. I just know it. And he dragged it on long enough. So they catch him, from what I know. They bring him into questioning. They put him in witness protection because of Nash.
He's super paranoid.
He's very paranoid. They put him up in a nice little hotel. Dawn and Sharon come to his aid. It's like, oh, his harem is here.
Oh, boy.
And they're not talking either.
Right.
And Sharon's not talking. But here's the thing. In 1988, the LA Times comes out with an article called Bathtub Confessions of John Holmes. So John Holmes, the night of the murders or the morning of the murders, like, Holmes confesses to his wife Sharon that he played a central role in the 4 brutal murders later on that day or that morning. He comes to her house. He's covered in blood. He tells her, oh, it was a car accident. And she's like, oh my God, you're in blood. Let's go, like, wash you off. Like, maternal instincts kicking in once again. He is being, cleaned by Sharon, and Sharon asks him, like, what happened? And he's just, Bear. I know, Cher Bear. Like, John Holmes is just silent. He's in shock. And finally, these words come out, and it just, like, she's just shook. The murders, I watched people die tonight. I was involved. I know who did it.
Oh, my goodness.
So Sharon's like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Like, and then she tells him, you need to get the hell out. Get out of the tub. Like, he's bathing in other people's blood right now. It's really bad. Like, you see that in the movie too. But he told her, like, he was there and he saw it. But was she going to come forward in the beginning? No.
That's what I always find so odd. I wonder what her motive was for not...
She's still loyal to him.
Girl.
She was still married to him. That was the thing. Because she doesn't...
I know.
Officially... Like, she doesn't officially divorce him until 83.
Oh, bless.
Until 83, the divorce finalizes.
I mean, it is very difficult to get a divorce in California.
Yeah.
But damn
girl. Right?
Bless her.
I know. And I know that John Holmes is being investigated by Tom Lang. And Tom Lang's like, come on, give me something. But the thing is, his hands are tied with Eddie Nash. He's like, no, I'm devoted to Eddie Nash. I can't say anything.
It is this weird... that is the one thing about this story. Is like, everyone has these weird allegiances that you're like, this person is not good to you. The women to John to Eddie Nash. Like, it's just so bizarre. Like, sell them out. Like, it's ridiculous. Especially the women. Like, he's poor, sweet little girlfriend. Like, he's prostituting you. He's abusive. So that actually is what ends up happening, is that he does get acquitted. And he does have to serve, like, I think 3 months for being, like, a hostile witness, essentially, and, like, contempt of court and all of that. And then he, like, they catch him in Florida.
He escapes, yeah.
He, like, fled to Florida.
He
they,
fled
like, bring
to Florida.
him back.
They fled for a while. Him and Dawn, because he tries to bring Sharon. Sharon's like, fuck you, dude.
Yeah,
I'm not going with you. And
Ew.
your mistress, girlfriend. Like, no. So they go to, I think they first go to Ohio.
Yes.
Then they go to
As you do.
And then they go to Oregon to stay with Dawn's family. And then from there they go back to LA. And then LA they go to Florida.
Yeah, so they're, like, literally on the
run.
And poor. And he had the audacity to go to Eddie Nash and ask him for money.
More money.
Like, hey, I need some money to, like, go on the run.
But Eddie Nash is going to give it to him because he's like, brother, you're going to cover for me, right?
Know. And it's just
I know where Sharon lives.
The whole thing just gets so ridiculous. Like,
it's a
you
circus.
Went back to him to ask for money. You are insane. Okay, great. So they find him in Florida. They arrest him. They bring them both back to LA.
Yes,
he's acquitted. Whatever. They then move on, and obviously he ends up dying due to AIDS-related complications.
Yeah.
So he just kind of ends his life as this, like, honestly horrible person.
Yes.
He was hired by an Italian film company to film, like, 2 feature films with, like, the most famous porn actress in Italy. He doesn't divulge to any of them that he
Cicciolina.
He doesn't tell any of them that he has HIV/AIDS.
Yeah.
And then has unprotected sex with all of these people for these 2 feature films.
Oh, yeah.
And it's this huge scandal because that is the most despicable thing I can imagine is like, oh, I have this disease that I contracted from my own actions, and I'm not going to tell you. Even though, like, this film company was, like, throwing him a lifeline. Like, he's poor. He's prostituting Dawn in Florida because they ran out of money. Eddie Nash didn't give them that much.
No.
And it's just like, even at the end of your life. And so then when he's back in Los Angeles, he's in a VA hospital dying. And like you said, the investigators are like, you're on your deathbed.
Come clean.
Come clean.
Tom Lang is like, come clean, dude.
And he won't.
He won't come clean.
Doesn't. So literally the secret, as it were, goes with him to his grave. And it's like, man, you just ended your life as you lived it, a bad person.
Yeah.
Like, and I know he's sort of like, a superhero in the porn community, and like people sort of had this weird obsession with him. No, I'm just going to call it out right now. Not a good person.
No.
Doesn't matter how big your dick is. You're a bad person.
Yes. What you made up in size, you still lacking a lot,
Yeah.
in being a human being,
The penis of your morality is small, and that, I think, is the most important. Is that not what we call that? Oh, a conscience, right. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sometimes I call it the penis of morality. It's confusing for me.
It's very confusing. So, like, what happened with him is, like, yeah, he gets acquitted. He does serve jail time.
Yes.
The other people involved, like, Nash acquitted because he has half of LAPD on his payroll, DAs on his payroll,
yes.
which leads to Gregory.
Well, and he has 2 trials, and the first one is a hung jury, 11-1. Just keep that in the back of your mind.
He paid off a juror, apparently. Gregory Dials gets off as well because, according to a DA, he had insufficient, evidence.
Yeah.
There was a lack of evidence right there covering him.
Yeah.
And John goes and serves. John, I think this is based on, like, reports. They were trying to kill him in jail, and they think it could have been Nash.
And that's the thing, is they're not sure if that was John's paranoia or if Nash really was trying to kill him. So they actually end up putting John in a single cell for the duration of his sentence.
Yeah.
Those 3 months or however.
Yeah, they try to put him in a single cell, and then they finally bring him to court again, and he's just like, no, he gets acquitted.
Yep.
Like, there's just this whole debate of why he didn't do the murders. Like, that was the whole thing. They're like, who did it? Well, I didn't do it.
Right.
We understand. John, we know that, but just tell us what happened. Just tell us something. No, I'm not going to do it. That's what it was. This is why these cases last such a long time, because someone is not telling the truth. They're being paid off by someone. They're covering up something.
And I think, if he is paranoid and afraid enough, or if it really was happening, they were trying to kill him in jail, that would explain his fear of not wanting to testify against them. I mean, Eddie Nash has a long reach. There was nowhere that John was safe, essentially. Yeah. So, I get it. But man, asshole. What's that?
Yeah. So what happens to Nash, too?
So Eddie Nash gets, the first trial, he has a hung jury, one juror, and then the second trial, he gets full-on acquitted. So he goes about his life. Then when they essentially get him, they do that, like, classic cop move of, like, they book him on another charge, the RICO Act, which stands for the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, because so they get him on drug trafficking and money laundering.
They're going to get him either way. They're going to really dig deep into this guy.
And so because of that, at this point, he's now in his 70s. He is riddled with emphysema. Like, he's dying.
Yeah.
So they kind of play that card to him and are like, look, here's your plea deal, and he admits to everything. So he admits to almost everything. He admits to the beatings and the drug trafficking and the buying off the juror in the first court case. He allegedly, not allegedly, he confessed he paid the female juror number 12, $50,000, and that was why it was a hung jury, because she wouldn't sway.
Yeah.
So he confesses to all of that. The only thing that he does not confess to is that he says, I sent them to the Wonderland house to get my things back, but I did not plot or design or conspire the murders. So that's the one thing. He ends up getting fined, basically $250,000, which for him is chump change.
Chump change. I'll just sell a house.
Send it my way.
Yeah.
And he gets a 4-year prison sentence. So
it's like a slap on the wrist.
It is a slap on the wrist. At least they got him for something, I guess. But yeah, like it all just ends. And so that is why, as you were saying, this technically is an unsolved murder.
Yeah.
Because John never told, Eddie Nash never told. He confesses to like 85% involvement, but that last little bit we will kind of never know, because now everybody's dead.
Everyone
the
is
remaining
dead.
2 members of the Wonderland gang are dead.
Yeah.
Eddie Nash is dead. John Holmes is dead. Like,
David Lynn is dead.
All of it.
Gregory is dead. Like, Gregory Dials passes away in 97 of a liver failure. We have Eddie Nash, who passes away at 80. I think in the early 2000s.
Yes.
You have, Holmes passes away in 86 or 87. And, of course, there's no one left in the Wonderland gang.
Right.
But I felt like they would have even met their demise later on in life, because
well, when you're living a certain kind of lifestyle.
Yeah, like Dave Lynn dies of an overdose.
Yes.
So there you go. I mean, I felt like that would have been their direction regardless.
Yes.
And the case is still left unsolved,
because they just don't know the how. Like, right, you can put almost all of the pieces together, but technically it is still an unsolved murder.
It is.
Which is just so frustrating.
But Tom Lang knows, like, what happened.
Yeah, I think he is one of those people that when he's like, my gut tells me this thing, you're like, yeah, you're someone whose gut is very trustworthy. As we've seen.
As we've seen in, a very big case in the 90s.
I'm really thirsty for some juice.
I know.
Blink, blink, blink,
OJ?
blink. Yeah.
So what happened to the rest of the people in this story, such as Dawn and Sharon? Sharon ends up passing away in 2012. She moves to Oregon after retiring from nursing, and I think she got sick and she died.
Yes.
And then Dawn is the one who really comes ahead. Like she really does.
It's kind of nice.
Well, like there's
Sad.
a 180. I know. Like, so Dawn soon sobers up and ends up marrying, another man later on in her life. She ends up having 2 children. She helped the writers of the Wonderland movie. She was there on set the whole time. So she kind of played like an associate producer.
She has her own book, Surviving John Holmes.
Yes, that was another thing.
I think is just so amazing. It's like, here's this woman who was like groomed, and a predator like pursued her.
Yeah.
And then she's like addicted to drugs because of him, and she's being prostituted because of him, and she's living this like hell life because he's beating her all the time, and it's just like this horrible existence. And then like she comes out on the other side, and she gets her life together, and she has a family, and she's like on her own 2 feet, and like what a like beautiful ending for her.
Yeah.
And like if anyone that I think does in this horrifying story deserve like a beautiful ending, it's her. Like, she really endured such horrible atrocities, and then like comes out the other side. Like,
she turns it around.
Nice.
Yeah, she ends up turning her life around. I know that she ends up working in the legal professional industry. Like, she works as a paralegal in Los Angeles for a bit, and then she goes on to teach women's studies and activism at Oregon State. So she gets her MFA and she starts teaching.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and then
you go,
after
girl.
I know, and then after that, what's even more awesome is she served as a board member for Shelter from the Storm, which is a nonprofit organization that helps women and children from battered homes.
That's amazing.
It's really cool. Like, she really like did a 180 there. But yeah, I mean, John Holmes was the king of porn, but even the king can fall from grace, you know. And in reality, he was a criminal, a thief, a liar, everything. And like I said before, too, crack can make you do the unthinkable.
Yes.
And what really makes me so upset after reading like the gusto that he gets for being the king of porn, it's like he was an asshole. This man, first off, stole from his friends, you know, burnt a lot of bridges, put his wife through so much torment, cheated on his wife, and then ends up selling Dawn to Eddie Nash, who then sells her to a mistress in the valley.
Yeah.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
Finds out he has AIDS and then proceeds to go on and, you know, shoot more, you know, film with these actresses and has intercourse with them. But fortunately, I know and I researched that no one contracted it. Thank God. Thank God. It was a rumor that he got the AIDS virus from Joey Vale in one of the porn films because he dies before John Holmes. He dies before John Holmes because I was researching. They didn't come out with the AIDS test until 1985.
Yes.
He gets tested positive in 86. And then who passes away in 86 is Joey Vale.
Right.
And then they kind of start linking those, like, you know, links together. Like, well, there's a connection right here. We think he got it from here. But other than that, he was cocky in every sense of the word. Every sense of the word. And I know that he remarried and his wife is still giving him praises, but it's just like, no. In my book,
that's the thing.
He was a sad, poor man.
Right before we started, if you look at his Wikipedia page, it's just like so clear that like some little fanboy like is in charge of editing this.
God.
I just started laughing because there's like, after all these horrible things he's done, there's like these little subheadings at the bottom, and it's charitable work, hobbies, and penis size. Those are the last 3 subheadings on his Wikipedia page.
That is his legacy, guys.
Like, I don't care what his charitable, like, what he prostituted a minor, like, his charitable work, his hobbies, I don't care.
I don't care. That doesn't make up for the fact that he really, let's be real. He caused the death of these 4 or 5 people.
I mean, yes.
Let's be real. In my opinion, he was there.
Yes.
He knew what he was
Love
doing.
it. Let's get into opinions.
Yes.
My favorite part.
To me, John Holmes was a victim of a lack of self-discipline. And he was a man that he was a FOMO.
Yeah.
Fear of missing out. He had to be involved in everything, literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
Involved in everything.
You know, and again, I think with drugs, with alcohol, those kinds of things, let me get real preachy.
Go.
I think it does bring out the worst parts of your personality.
It does.
And so you're just functioning on this, like, obsessive need for your next hit. And everything else gets bleached away from that.
Yeah.
And so it's like you look at him, and for better or for worse, I mean, he's still cheating on his wife. He's still a garbage human. But he really did take the craft that porn was in the 70s very seriously before he starts doing drugs. And then you see it's literally like pre and post cocaine. He's 2 completely different people. Whether it's right or not, it's not. Like, I'm not trying to defend him morally. I'm just saying that you can look at like his dedication to the work in the early 70s, and it's really like he actually believes that he's doing something important with his life, that it's his chosen thing.
He's Johnny Wad.
Yeah, exactly. And then after, it just turns him into the worst version of a bad person. He's already a bad person, but it just makes him even more despicable.
Mm-hmm.
And there is literally no limit to what he will do to get his next fix. And so, yeah, 100%, he is responsible for these deaths, for the difficulties that Dawn had to go through.
Yeah.
And, like, fine, yeah, he was also prostituting himself and, like, he was doing his own thing. But, like, when you're involving other people, it's just so despicable.
It's very sad. It's very sad.
Yeah.
And that's our opinion of John Holmes in this whole entire case. So, guys, we're going to take a little break.
Yes.
We're going to bring you this little promo, and then we're going to dig into a little surprise. I'm going to surprise Bryce with something real quickly, and then we go into the paranormal aftermath, guys.
What you've all been waiting for.
Yes, we got Ghost here. So we'll be back in just a second. Psst, Bryce.
Hey, girl.
Do you know what an RSS feed is?
Really smooth Starbucks?
I thought the same thing too, but nope, it's really simple stuff, or according to Wikipedia, it's a really simple syndication.
Right, that's the thing that Blueberry provided us with when we started our podcast.
Yes, let's be real. None of us knew where to start out while creating our podcast in the beginning, and Blueberry helped us out a lot.
I know, they seriously make everything easy for us podcasters.
Blueberry hosting is highly optimized for using WordPress with PowerPress. Blueberry makes publishing your podcast in 3 easy steps.
Step 1, produce your podcast. 2, write your blog post. 3, publish.
It's like a recipe. WordPress plus PowerPress plus Blueberry hosting equals success.
I like that, a recipe.
Hosting with Blueberry also allows you to be in control. Plus, there are no third-party sites to log into, no contracts, so you can cancel anytime. It's optimized for iTunes and creates support for all platforms.
So, if you're browsing for a new hosting site, or if you're planning to start your own podcast, then Blueberry is the perfect place.
Head on over to our website, hollyweirdparanormal.blueberry.net, scroll down our blog post, and click on the Blueberry tab link.
And use our promo code WEIRD if you're interested in receiving a free month by signing up with Blueberry.com.
Free is a good thing. Start creating with Blueberry.com.
All right, but now I am craving Starbucks.
Let's go all drive.
Yes.
Hey guys, we're back.
Back.
Yes, so I have a little surprise
I love surprises.
for Bryce and for you guys. We're going to go where no other paranormal and true crime podcast has gone before. We're going to
scared.
read.
Look, if you try and get me into the basement, I can't. That's my
You
line.
mean a haunted cave?
Yeah, that's my
A
line.
haunted tunnel?
I need a safe word.
Banana.
Nah.
All right. So, guys, while doing research on the history of porn in LA, I came across something on Reddit. This little piece of poetry. I found a porn script
Stop.
from a porno called Youth and Asia.
Oh,
And
man.
I
There
have
are
a
no
little
puns like porn puns. There really aren't. You think your dad has puns? Not like porn do.
Armageddon on, all
Oh,
right?
Oh, my.
Second part is Armageddon honor.
I'm blushing.
I know. Bryce, since you are a trained thespian.
Thank you.
Yes. Would you like to partake in this?
Yeah. Yeah. Is that even a real question? 100%.
All right, guys. So I do have I've had, some training in the past. So
Oh, boy.
we have the nurse and Mr. Green. And since we live in 2018, I mean, these are, gender fluid roles. Like,
Yes,
you could be
clearly.
the nurse, you could be Mr. Green, or I could be Mr. Green or the nurse. You get first dibs.
I'll be the nurse. I don't know if I can be straight. Let's just call that out. Here we go.
All right, red leather, yellow
Ooh, the
leather,
tip of the
red.
teeth.
I know, tip of the teeth and the tongue.
I
of the
love
teeth.
it.
All right.
Acting warm-ups are the best.
Okay. So playing the nurse is Bryce Mitchell Williams, and playing the role of Mr. Green is Tammy Merhab Chavez.
I love it.
All right.
Are you sure you want to do this? I mean, there's so many reasons to live.
Like what? My health?
Well, music?
I listen to goth.
Movies?
I watch porn,
Oh,
which makes me horny and reminds me I have no one.
Children?
They throw rocks at me.
Well, I can't help you, Mr. Green. Besides, it ain't even legal. Are we Southern? I'm Southern now. I'm changing.
Okay, we could do that.
I'm Southern now.
I need something to take the pain away, nurse.
We'll take an aspirin or something.
Only if you have some of that sneezing, sniffling, coughing, stuffy head fever so I could die. Medicine.
Sigh.
You seem really cool, nurse. I'm ready to go.
I'm walking to a table to grab a syringe.
No, I don't want any drugs.
Well, gee, Mr. Green, how do you want to do this? Oh, my God.
I want to go out the same way I came in.
Oh, really? And how was that?
I was born by the snatch.
Stop.
I'm going to die by the snatch. Hold up. So come and sit on my face so you can take my breath away.
Wow. I feel like we have single-handedly set feminism back 30 years.
End scene. Wow. We're ready for porn.
I'm ready for the South and for porn. Yep.
I mean, $15 billion, Bryce.
Oh, my goodness. I mean, look, realistically, everyone has a price, right? That is the thing. You can say whatever you want. Eventually, a number is going to pop up that you're like, yeah.
You okay?
Call me Mr. Green.
Yes.
It's happening. Mm-hmm. I don't know what to say about that. I guess it means my morality is very questionable. But, like, again, I have student loans to pay, y'all. Like,
we do. I mean, name your price. All right, guys.
We're going to get the most ridiculous messages this week. Like, hey, you want to work in porn? No, thank you.
Well, we're thinking. Hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah. We just have to come up with a name.
The little loading wheel.
Can you give me a day?
I feel I'm going to add.
I mean, we need to buy a house.
I'm going to add this script to my reel. Like, I just feel like it really speaks to me. Nurse. Yeah.
I was the nurse.
Well, I'm turned on. Yeah. How could I not be turned on after that?
All right, now that we have you guys turned on,
You're welcome.
we're going to talk about ghosts. The paranormal aftermath of the Wonderland house, guys. Is there a paranormal aftermath? Hell yes. When something tragic has happened and so severe in this manner, something is always left behind, and especially in Laurel Canyon.
Mm-hmm.
In the canyons. Like, we see this with George Reeves in Benedict Canyon. You know, his house is supposedly haunted.
Yeah.
The Sharon Tate house is not that far away from the Wonderland house, and then we have the Wonderland house.
That's right. And we're back in season 2. I'm gonna say it a lot. Layers on layers of trauma, and then it manifests. Like,
it's all the bedrock that just absorbs everything, and that's something that I mentioned before. Something so severe, so much energy is left behind, it's absorbed in the canyons and it stays there. So what happened to the house after this horrific tragedy? Well, the house was closed off for a while as a crime scene. However, people were still flocking there with deep, morbid curiosities to witness the Murderland house, as it was once nicknamed. They were even breaking in to see if there were still splatters of blood on the ground and on the wall.
oh my goodness.
Even people were going in there to see if there was any money or drugs left hidden, within the walls or the floors. It was finally sold to a couple who fixed it up and rented it. There was one report in the early 90s from one of the tenants, a gentleman who claimed that he witnessed a few unexplainable occurrences.
Oh, no.
So this is one of his stories. He claimed that he would feel certain heaviness in a few areas of the home. He had a few friends over one night, and as one of them, walked up the stairs to use the bathroom, he said he felt as though someone was coming down the stairs towards him, and then he felt as though someone pushed him out of the way. Get out of my way.
Oh my goodness.
So his friend freaked out.
Mm-hmm.
And then the gentleman also goes on to recount one particular occurrence in his room, which happened to be the room of Joy Miller and Billy Deverell. So he claimed that the supernatural activity intensifies with his television. There were times...
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Oh, if you've seen the video, you've seen what was left on in the room.
Right.
The TV.
The TVs.
Uh-huh. It's so creepy.
Oh.
They were like, on their like little heroin trip, and they fell asleep to the television on, and it was left on. So your eye is twitching so bad. Oh my goodness. So there were times where he would fall asleep to the television at night. However, there was one night when he woke up to turn off the TV, and after he turned off the TV, his bed started to shake. No. And the TV turned back on again.
No. Look, I'm not trying to tell you how to live your life, but if you fall asleep with the TV on,
Yes.
you're asking to be haunted. I'm sorry. No.
Did you ever see the movie Poltergeist?
Yes, I have. I really had to struggle through to get through it because I was so scared. But yes.
They're here.
No.
Yes, they're there.
Oh.
This is just based on his accounts. But here's the biggest story, guys. You're not going to believe who moves into the house in 2008.
Stop.
Ready for it?
No.
LMFAO moves into the house. The electronic pop duo who were huge between the years of 2008 and 2011. They're the two that were behind the party anthem themes of Party Rockin', Shots, Every Day I'm Shuffling, Yes, and I'm Sexy and I Know It.
Yes.
They move into the house, so
No
the singers
way.
Sky Blue and Red Foo tell their tale on JoJo Wright's YouTube channel after they hinted to JoJo that they were living in a house in Laurel Canyon where a murder occurred.
Oh,
it was a
my
massacre, and there were bodies that they had to pull from the house. So JoJo was like, oh my God, I think I know which one you're talking about. So they couldn't hint to it. They were just giving him clues. But you could find this on YouTube, guys. If you just Google LMFAO Wonderland House, they go into detail about their experiences, and that's what they tell JoJo on the channel. They're like, we have stories. So here is one of their stories. So Skylar Austin Gordy, aka Sky Blue, was set up in the room where, you guessed it, Joy Miller and Billy Deverall were murdered. So according to Skylar, or Sky Blue, Skylar has a punching bag in his room because based on what he says, he's like, I like to work on my fitness. I have a punching bag, of course. So he recalls there are times where he would wake up and he would see the punching bag swinging violently.
No. Those are so heavy.
Yes.
I have to move the one at the gym sometimes.
Yes, and yeah.
I'm not trying to brag, but I'm strongish. I can move some weight.
I can move things.
And it's heavy. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's awkward. No.
Yeah, so he would notice at times that the bag would just swing violently.
Oh my God.
And mind you, there's no windows open. He has a cat. He's like, this cat can't push this
there's
thing.
no
There's
way.
no way. On top of that, he goes on to explain that he sleeps with his door locked due to, his childhood. His sister would come into his room at night and pour Tabasco in his mouth, fuck with him. So
that's hilarious.
It's hilarious. So he's like, since then, I always would sleep with the door locked. But every morning, I will see this punching bag just swinging back and forth, like someone is really pushing it, and swaying it. So that is his tale.
No.
He's even stated he's been kind of freaked out too. And then his brother Stefan Kendall Gordy, aka Red Foo, had an incident in the bathroom.
No.
So his tale happens when he was, drawing himself a bath or a shower, and he was relieving himself while he was drawing the water. He's just, as he quotes, making a pee-pee.
Bless.
He hears the faucet of the bath knobs turn off, and he looks over and he notices that the knobs were moving and the water turns off by itself.
No.
He's like, this is not due to pipes.
Right.
I saw these knobs turn. You could hear it. They're screeching, and the water just turned off. And instantly he gets this cold chill go down his spine.
No.
And he goes into detail saying, the faucet, the plumbing in this place is old.
Sure.
And the appliances are old. And he was going into detail about, whenever he would take a shower, you need a little arm muscle for these knobs. They're a little hard to turn. So there's just no explanation on how they turn by themselves. No explanation at all.
Yeah.
So they were freaked out, by these little occurrences that they were
Sure.
going through. They would also hear footsteps and voices. And they would, hear doors opening and closing. So they actually got someone to come into the house, and they did a cleansing of the house. They burnt sage. They had, chanted a prayer. I mean, they were like, we were burning sticks of sage.
Wow.
I mean, we were just like, get this bad juju energy out, and then let's party rock. So their experiences inspired them to do a remix of the Ghostbusters song.
Oh.
So they did a party anthem remix of the Ghostbusters theme song. Yeah. And they were like, if you hear them talk about it, like they're so chill. They're just like, you could tell like they're kind of spooked. They're like, we don't know how to, and they're serious about it at this time. They're like, we honestly do not have an explanation for this, but some crazy shit did happen in this house, and this is what we went through. So this is the paranormal aftermath of the Wonderland murders.
That's the thing, is even still, one of the things I was looking up when I was looking for like clips and things on YouTube, there's like so many people who are like, we're going to the Wonderland house. And I'm like, no.
It is such a novelty.
No.
It was on the Thomas Guides. And the Thomas Guides are these like maps of the stars.
Yes.
You could find, stars, addresses on these guides.
Creepy.
And one of them is the Wonderland house. And the neighbors would complain, like, the people would try to break in. They would, park their car in front of their houses. I mean, it was a fiasco. Like, that area is just cursed in general.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. And I know when they did the Wonderland film, they shot the exterior.
Oh, wow.
They used the house for the exterior.
Of course.
But they used I think it was 2 houses down, they used a home there as the interior. Wow. Yeah, because they're all kind of built alike.
Sure.
Yeah, it's...
No, thank you, ghost.
No me gusta.
Please stop turning my shower off.
Yes.
Oh.
So there you have it, guys. There are ghosts. There are ghosts in the house. I think that something was left behind with all the energy.
What
and
do you
shit.
think that is? Like, do you think that's like a poltergeist?
No,
do you
I
think
think
that's
it's
just
them.
energy? Like,
I think it might be them.
Yeah.
I think it might be them. I think they're, they haven't passed on. I don't think they really knew if they died because they were so drugged up.
Wow.
And maybe this is their purgatory for being like the human beings that they were.
Oh, man, that's deep.
Like, if you think about it, like, I think these people really didn't pass on, and I don't think they know they're dead, and they're stuck there. This is their purgatory.
They definitely have unfinished business. Like,
exactly.
Oof.
They're stuck in that house forever, so I think, that's it. Man. What do you think?
That's a hard one. I mean, it's hard when it's like such a surprise attack, but I mean, it's rated as like number 7 on the top 20 most gruesome murders.
Yeah.
I just think like when you have grizzled, like you were saying, crime scene investigators who are throwing up and who are saying that it's like worse than the Sharon Tate murder scene.
Yes.
Those kinds of things to me, like we were saying, leave so many echoes. Like that is such a intentional violence. I think if at the very least to latch on to that anger and violence and occurrence would be so simple. Yeah. Because it was so bloody. Yeah. So violent that like to latch on to that would be almost second nature, I would think. Mm-hmm. Whether it's them or not, like obviously I will never go there. Hello. So it's like, well, I wonder if anyone has ever seen or knew what those gang members looked like to be like, oh, that's them. Mm-hmm. Or if they don't show themselves, or I wonder, like, I would probably lean a little bit more towards like a poltergeist type energy latching on to the violent occurrence, only because no one said like, and then I saw them. Like I recognized three men and 2 women or something like that. That would be the only reason, but it does seem very odd about the TVs.
Yeah, the poltergeist activity. I mean, that does sound like a poltergeist activity. I mean,
right, because isn't that the thing that they're the ones that are like messing with?
They're very precocious.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh. And hasn't been any claims of full body apparitions.
Interesting.
Like what was common mists or orbs. Like people would feel, hear, but kind of see things happening in front of them.
And
that
I'm
was
sure,
unexplainable.
like, no 2 hauntings are the same. So that's just, oh, man.
Many definitions of different hauntings out there.
Terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
They're
residual.
All terrifying.
Yes, intellectual. So that is our story, guys. The true crime and paranormal aftermath of the Wonderland murders. Let us know what you think. But of course, guys, before we wrap up, we got the raffle drawing. Yep. All right, guys. So Bryce will draw the names. There's 3 names we're going to draw. And this is for the mug, the shirt, and another drawing for the tote bag with a little surprise. For the winners, please email us your first and last name and your address where you would like your items to be sent.
Swag.
Please email us at hollyweirdparanormal@gmail.com. Okay, guys? Yay. So you're ready? So this one is for the mug. Thank you guys for submitting your names. I went on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, recorded your names. So this one is going to be for our special Hollywood Paranormal mug. So
I'm shaking it.
Yes. So you can drink your tea, spill your tea. Mm-hmm. Me.
And the first winner is Stephanie Coke, I'm going to guess, or Cock. No, since it is the episode. Girl, if that's not how you say your name, I'm so sorry, but this is the episode for it.
Oh my God.
I feel like I just unearthed like childhood trauma, but like you got to talk about Cock. It's fine.
Stephanie, Coach Cock, you are the winner of our Hollywood Paranormal mug. I'm sorry we butchered your name, sweetheart.
We butchered it, but you are a winner, girl.
You are a winner in our book, girl. So we're going to be sending you that merch. Just send us your address at hollyweirdparanormal@gmail.com.
Yay, Stephanie.
All right, so the second drawing will be for the Hollyweird Paranormal two-tone shirt. You've seen the shirt on Bryce.
Love it. Obsessed.
On our Instagram.
And the winner is...
Oh, my goodness.
Rob S.
Rob S.
Yes.
That was from Twitter.
Yay.
Rob.
I can read the letter S. I did it. I'm so good at reading.
Oh my God, Rob, you are the winner
Yay.
of our Hollywood Paranormal shirt in size large, or what we like to call size amazing. Amazing. So we'll be sending you that shirt. Just send us your info.
Yay.
And this is for the tote bag. This is for the big bag.
I'm gonna
to carry all your baggage. More baggage than the Kardashians. Let me tell you.
Ooh, political.
There's a lot of baggage.
What does that say?
Jonathan!
Oh my!
Jonathan, you won the battle!
Yay! Sorry, I'm really bad at reading cursive. Apparently, it's my fault.
Jonathan, remember Jonathan from the listener stories? He's the one that submitted the tale of Silence in the Woods.
I think about that all the time.
Oh my God, Jonathan, oh boy,
Do you want to hear something kind of creepy?
Oh,
I was
God.
literally thinking just as I was reaching in for this third one, and I was like, let it be like a good one. Like let it be someone.
Aww.
Yeah, and then it's the scariest story of all time.
Jonathan, you won our bag, and we had left a little surprise in there, so you're the only one that's going to find out what it is.
Yay.
Take a picture of it. Please make sure you tag us on it, post it on Instagram. Make sure to send us your information via email. Just slip into our, DMs, guys. Okay, so before we take it to a close, of course, you know how we are with our spiritual bays of the week. Yay. There are two. One is Guide to the Unknown. I've been talking with these peeps online, on social media. They're amazing. They're brother and sister hosts, Kristen Roger Andersons and William Rogers, talks about mysteries, the paranormal, urban legends, and folklore while keeping it light. They're hilarious. They also have a YouTube channel so you can see their beautiful faces. They're amazing. They're very funny. Their Guide to the Unknown. The second one is Two Girls on a Bench. Hosts Trisha and Sienna are two frustrated writers with no time to write. How to Procrastinate Now, a podcast, of course, complemented with some fine libations and kazoos.
Perfect. It's the perfect combo.
They're really sweet and they're funny. And if you need a break from the true crime and paranormal podcast, they're a really good one to listen to. And this is just a shout out to one of our listeners. Happy birthday, JP Chua. I don't know if I butchered your name. But
really doing it this week. Hell yeah.
I think it's Supreme Gamer J on Instagram or Twitter. But happy birthday. He mentioned that our season 2 launch was starting on a speed day. So happy birthday, boo.
Happy birthday, my fellow Gemini.
So if you love Hollyweird Paranormal, guys, we'd love for you to subscribe, rate, and give us a review on Apple Podcasts. It's the purple app that automatically comes with every iPhone you purchase. It really helps us indie podcasters out a lot, makes us become a little more visible, and make sure to stalk us on Facebook and Instagram at Hollyweird Paranormal and on Twitter at HWP Podcast, guys. Catch up with our past episodes from season 1 on iTunes, Blueberry, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, and CastBox. Yes,
we
guys.
are everywhere.
We are. So always remember, don't be basic, stay weird.
Yay.
All right. Bryce, what are we going to do our next episode?
Who even knows?
Knows.
We do know. I just can't think of it off the top of my head.
Oh, the cult. We're going to do cult.
Yes.
The Buddhafield cult.
Yes,
The
that's
Pretty
right.
People cult.
I am obsessed.
We are.
knee deep in holy hell on Netflix.
Oh,
so just get ready.
And there's no paranormal aftermath, but the producer, who is very famous, is living in a haunted place.
Stop it.
So we're going to do a paranormal sort of aftermath with that.
It's going to be an amalgam of cults and paranormal.
Yeah,
My
ghosts.
whole world.
Ghosts.
Love it.
All right, guys. We'll catch you soon.
Yay.
Stay weird. Bye.